Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me out there. I welcome you to the Black Business Festival event to mark the Black History Month. We have a lot of audience that have joined us online today, and I will suggest that please feel free to use the comments chat and leave your questions and comments. My colleagues Emma and Holly are in the virtual studio monitoring your chat and questions. We're really excited that this event, the Black Business Festival, particularly excited and made you interested to be with us this Friday afternoon. So we're going to make sure that this is a really valuable session for you. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Bola Babajide, and I am a senior lecturer in the Department of Accounting and Finance at DMU. Today's event, the Black Business Festival, is organized by the Directorate of Social Impact and Engagement at DMU. And the main aim of organizing this event is to celebrate the success of BEM entrepreneurs, to increase representation and inspire current business students with people they can relate to, most especially our alumni. Since our alumni are doing brilliantly well in their businesses, the Directorate finds it a very fitting opportunity to give some of them this platform to elevate the journey from students to alumni and now to entrepreneurs. To join us at this session, we have business owners Felix Ochefu, Kennedy Assoumou, and Daniel Nyirenda. These three young, amazing entrepreneurs team up to co-found a company called the IdeasLab Global. Kennedy Assoumou is a graduate of University of Portsmouth. Kennedy, we welcome you to DMU. Kennedy, can you say hi to our audience?
Sure, thank you, Bola, and hello everyone, and thank you for having me.
And we have we have Felix and Daniel. Felix and Daniel are our alumni at DMU. Felix and Daniel, we welcome you to home. This is home to you, so we welcome you home.
Nice to be here. I'm glad to be at this event as well. Thank you, Bola.
All right.
Thank you so much, Bola. Pleasure to be here.
So, yeah, I will be asking these amazing entrepreneurs questions that I believe will create some thought in our mind about starting our own businesses. And as I've mentioned earlier, please feel free to post your questions and comments in the chat. Oli and Emma will be monitoring that for us. Okay, so to start the event, I want the panel members to introduce themselves. Who are you guys? And what did you study when you were at DMU? What is your current job title? Who are you?
Cool. I'll kick us off. Who are we? Okay, I'll start. So my name is Daniel. I'm one of the co-founders at IdeasLab Global. What do I do for my day-to-day job? I currently work at DMU, surprisingly. I actually worked in London for a bit. I didn't really like it. I then decided to come back to Leicester. I really felt like I wanted to work with students. I've always had this passion to work with students. And coming back and getting a marketing job at DMU was perfect for me because I did advertising and marketing for my undergraduate degree. So my official title is I'm a marketing and recruitment officer at DMU. We look after all marketing related activities at DMU, specifically looking at attracting students to come and study at the university. I also did my master's in strategic and digital marketing here at DMU as well. And yeah, I'm just, building my career and also building IdeasLab Global at the same time. And DMU has done so much for me. So I'm definitely happy to be here to give back and just share our knowledge as well.
Thank you, Daniel. Felix, who are you?
Who am I? Oh, I ask myself that question every day. I'm just joking. I like to describe myself as just simply a young Black man trying to leave a positive impact on this earth. I try to do that with everything I do, everything I work on, and just my general being. I studied business and management at University, and at DMU was the spark that inspired the creation and setup of IdeasLab Global in its initial form. So at IdeasLab Global, I'm a co-founder and also the head of strategic business development as well. So I look after partnerships, opportunities, anything that's going to be strategic to our growth and then allow us to grow and to create more value for the student community as well. I look after that. And as a full-time job, I'm the Innovation Hub Associate at a company called MSD UK. And MSD UK is the leading supplier diversity advocacy in the UK. And my job specifically there is to help set up and run an accelerator program that supports ethnic minority entrepreneurs into joining a supply chain of global companies. Yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. That's what I do. And I'm really happy to be here again.
Thank you, Felix.
Thank
and
you.
Kennedy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Happy to. So I'm Kennedy. I went to University of Portsmouth where I studied economics, finance, and banking. I graduated in 2018, and from there I went on to FDM Group, which is a boutique recruitment firm. There I trained to be a business analyst, where I do my full-time role right now. This is also where I met my fellow co-founder, and good friend Felix, who told me about IdeasLab Global, and I jumped at the opportunity because it gives me the opportunity to really, again, talking about legacy and really making an impact, not just in the lives of the people living now, but for generations to come. So that is why I'm part of the IdeasLab team. And yeah, I'm an IT business analyst at a company called Agilisis, where we help public sector entities such as councils, metropolitan police, and NHS, and digitally transform them, moving them into the cloud and other areas such as that. So that's me.
Oh, thank you for that. So I understand that two of you, Daniel and Felix, you are our alumni, but actually you were three because of Mohammed. Three of you alumni from DMU. Why did you choose DMU? And what was your experience studying here with us?
Wow. Why do we choose DMU? This is very nostalgic. It's taking me back to 2014, where actually let's go back 2013, where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life. I'd been working for about 2 years, just coming out of sixth form. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to go to university. I was working in a warehouse, just making money, and I thought that was good enough for me. But it got to a stage where I realized that I was enjoying something called marketing. I didn't know it was marketing at that time. I used to help promote events for different companies, and I would get a commission of about £2 at the time, every time I get a ticket sale. And I was doing this very well on Facebook. So I was utilizing Facebook groups. I was pinging people on Facebook. Do you want to come to this event? And I was finding some momentum doing that. I had a conversation with my uncle, and he was saying to me, well, what you're actually doing here is marketing. You should look into going to university for it. So, okay, fast forward, I looked at on UCAS, and something about DMU just stood out to me. It was the only university at that time that I could find that was doing advertising and marketing together. And I thought that was a perfect mix after I did my research around the area of marketing. And when I looked into the university, came to an open day, it was very diverse. I loved the atmosphere. The teachers were diverse as well. So I saw people who looked like me, and I thought instantly, yeah, this is the place to be. And fast forward, from 2014 up to 2018, I've graduated, and I'm still here at DMU. That just shows how much I love this place. I'm still here. And again, working with students is fantastic. And it also shows in what I'm doing now with IdeasLab Global, student-based. So students will forever be, in my heart. So that's the reason why I chose DMU, definitely the diversity.
I like that, Daniel, because I'm here, and when I see students come to me because they feel they can relate to me, probably because they are from Africa or from the Caribbean. I know they really want to relate with me. That's why they've come to me for advice. So thank you for letting me know that once again. So Felix, do you want to tell us, why did you choose DMU and what was your experience here with us?
Yeah, so my journey to DMU started off quite rough, to be honest. And I'll be fully transparent, you know, with yourselves and all the viewers here. I got into DMU through clearing. So I didn't do as well as I thought I was going to do during my A levels. So all my options had fallen apart, right? So ended up speaking to my head of sixth form at the time, who sadly passed away. And he told me that he knew a student who was at my A levels, my A level school, who went to this university called De Montfort in a place called Leicester. And I was like, where the hell is that? You know, like what is DMU? I only really known about Russell Group unis and stuff like that. So, you know, I did some research just to kind of figure out, you know, what is this place called Leicester? What is it all about? Where is it on the map, sort of thing? So I called up DMU and I spoke to the clearing team, and it was probably the nicest conversation I'd had with any university's recruitment arm, because I'd spoken to a whole bunch of unis trying to find the uni I wanted to go to, and they were all very blunt, you know, they were just not that friendly. And DMU actually it treated me like a human being, sort of thing. Like they were just nice about it. You know, they were understanding that I didn't do well, and you know, they were very calm, and they offered, you know, the best courses, the courses that made more sense for me, and then just asked me if I you know was interested, and I was like, yeah, sure. Like I think this seems like a good uni. It seems like it has a lot of potential. I really liked how I was treated already. So and also had the course I wanted to do as well, which is business and management. So I decided to take the jump and, you know, move to Leicester with basically all my options gone, and then kind of start fresh and see what it was like. And you know, I had an amazing experience. You know, because I went to secondary school in Nigeria, so when I got to DMU, I actually started seeing some people I hadn't seen since secondary school after like 8 or 9 years or something like that. So those kind of experiences, meeting, you know, people like Shafiq Mohamed, who's a co-founder, you know, meeting Daniel, and then everybody else. It just the staff, the faculty, the students, the opportunities that DMU provided as well, things like DMU Global, all those in combination made the experience at DMU really, really valuable for me, and a lot more valuable than I probably expected when I first got there through clearing. And, you know, like I give DMU all the credit it deserves for setting me up for success going forward, you know, post-university and things like that, because they truly care about the students. And I believe if you leverage the community in the right way, you can really get a lot out of the institution of DMU. And I believe that's what we did. So yeah, shout out to DMU for everything.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you for at least for giving us all the good vibes, the positive things about DMU. So 4 of you co-founded the company IdeasLab Global. How did it begin? I know Mohamed could not join us today, but at least the 3 of you are with us. How did it begin? What inspired you to start your own business? And how did DMU play a role in starting the business?
Yeah, so I'll give parts of the origin story, and then I'll let Daniel give like
okay.
So, prior to academic year 2017, right? Myself, Shafiq, we how do I put it right? We realized that we knew a lot of people who were playing around with business ideas, but didn't really know where to go or what to do with them. So let's say, for example, we had a friend who was studying, I believe it's something to do with medicine at the time, but he was also a DJ. You know, so he wanted to understand how to better promote his brand. We knew another young lady at the time who was studying nursing, but who was into like cooking and fashion and stuff like that, and wanted to develop a brand, marketing and things like that. The stuff that we were studying at the time, myself and Shafiq. So we were really excited to put some of our knowledge into practice and actually support and consult for students who needed the support and needed the guidance, and also to make introductions to other people that we knew from DMU in our course, outside our course, who could support them with parts of their business or the ideas that we couldn't support them with, right? So we started doing that, and we realized that we really enjoyed the process. We really, really enjoyed the process, and we wanted to find a way to almost institutionalize it, find a way to make it scale. And so how do we give the most value to students who needed it, with the least amount of effort from our ends, basically? So that was kind of the initial idea, and I'll let Daniel kind of fill in, because we spent a lot of time in the library, playing around with different ideas and concepts and things like that. So I'll let Daniel fill in and talk about what happened after.
Yeah, no worries. To be fair, I can touch on, I think Felix and Shafiq had an amazing story. I can touch on that story just a little bit. So through DMU Global, Felix and Shafiq went to Silicon Valley, where they met they met founders from Google, Twitter, Facebook. They got a tour of Stanford, San Jose, and they soaked up all this philosophy, the community, that global mindset. In fact, they met people who were raising a lot of money, something that was alien to them. They met two students. One had raised at least $500,000 for their fintech company, and this, I think Felix will be able to explain further, but this blew their minds. To them, it was like, how come we haven't seen anything like this in the UK? We've gone all the way to America, and we've seen students that look like us raise so much money. As a result of this, I didn't get to go to this trip, but at this time I was in the library, focusing on my final year project. But when these guys came back from the USA, they had so much fire. They were like, yo, listen, this is what we've seen in the USA. We need to make it happen here in the UK. We need to be a vehicle to support student entrepreneurs, to help them collaborate globally with people in America, in China, in Korea, whatever country you can think of. We want students here in the UK to be able to learn from students in different countries, for example. And so, yeah, that's how the idea kind of started. We brainstormed in the library, countless hours. We spoke to people at the university. And then I'll stop there, because I think, Felix will be able to kind of sort of just add more of that fire into this story. But I think that's essentially the foundation of IdeasLab Global. It came from a trip, from a DMU Global trip. And yeah, we're here today.
Yeah, thank you for that, Daniel. And, I can't stress enough how life-changing that trip was to Silicon Valley, which is why I give so much credit to DMU for having such an innovative program. Because whenever I talk to people who go to other universities about DMU Global and all the trips and stuff, they're like blown away, because I didn't realize like other universities didn't do stuff like this. So this is a very DMU specific thing, and it's so valuable, because for me, visualization is really important. Sometimes you have to see things in real life to believe it's possible.
That's true.
And Silicon Valley was one of those things. I'd already been, a love of technology from a very young age. My parents ran a tech startup back in Nigeria and things like that. So I'd already been exposed to the game. And I was reading up about, Apple and Facebook and all these founding stories, and, was really inspired by these amazing entrepreneurs. And it was while I was in placement year that I realized like they all kind of came from the same ecosystem, which was crazy to me, because I was like, what's happening out there that they're producing all these people, right? So when I realized that DMU had a trip going to Silicon Valley, I had to jump on it. Funny enough, at the time, it wasn't even available to undergrads. It was a master's trip, but somehow myself and Shafiq and one of our other friends, Serena, managed to talk ourselves onto this trip, and we went out there, and on the itinerary was General Electric Digital. We went to Stanford Uni, San Jose State University. We went to Facebook campus, Google campus. So it was quite a broad trip. We also went to a TED Talk as well, which was really fun. You know, and it was life-changing in the sense of, like Daniel had mentioned, it was the philosophy out there, specifically at Stanford. And I think there's a reason why Stanford creates so many amazing entrepreneurs. You know, a lot of the biggest companies, the most successful companies in the world that we know of, a lot of their founders went to Stanford. You know, Snapchat, Instagram, HP. You know, it's just so many of them that we know. There's multi-billion-dollar companies all coming from the same ecosystem. So when we went to the design school at Stanford, and we're talking to students out there, talking to faculty, we realized it was the philosophy that they were using to build. And to be fair, up until now, I'm not sure whether it's an American philosophy or Stanford specific philosophy or Silicon Valley philosophy, but it was a philosophy nonetheless, and it was very intoxicating. You know, it was not being scared to fail. You know, it was rapid prototyping. It was thinking global from early, and it was failing forward. You know, all those things in combination just created such an enabling ecosystem for big thinking and rapid development and fearlessness and entrepreneurs who felt like they could really create something that was valuable, not just to Silicon Valley, not just to America, not just to California, but to the world from the classroom. And that was a big distinction from, I believe, what I was experiencing at DMU and in the UK. I felt like we needed to think bigger. So meeting students out there who were already talking about how this project that they're working on can serve communities of millions of people in rural India or in the Middle East or wherever it was really, really inspiring. And their attitude towards failure was you know, I'm Nigerian, so you know, we know that where we come from, like failure is not a good thing, but
Yeah.
over here, failure is a part of the journey.
Yeah.
And that was a very, very big distinction that I wasn't really used to. So, you know, like Danny mentioned, we're meeting students who, you know, we met one student who raised $500,000 for his fintech startup, and he was in second year of university. And I was just like, wow, like there's something really special going on here. So we started talking about how we can bring some of that philosophy back to the UK. And since we're already supporting students in that way, but before we went to the trip, we felt like we now had a mission. Now we've seen everything. Now we've met founders, you know, whose companies are now worth many billions of dollars today, but at the time they were, you know, just starting out or, you know, super successful. We met investors out there who, you know, were really young, like 16, 17 years old, but they were investing millions of dollars into companies. You know, those kind of people inspired us so much to come back and look students in the eye in the UK and say, we can do so much more. There's so much more out there. And I also forgot to mention a really, really important part of what we learn at Silicon Valley, the abundance mindset. The mindset that there is more than enough for everybody to go around. So if you're building something, you don't have to be shy about what you're building. You don't go and hide it and say, oh, you know, if I tell you, maybe you might steal it. Nah, because everybody's building something. Everybody believes that they can be successful. So no one has time to steal your idea. You know, so it was that shift in mindset of, no, being secretive doesn't actually benefit you. You have to be open about the things that you're building and the things you're passionate about, because that's the only way you're going to get feedback on your idea. That's the only way you're going to talk to customers and, you know, problem solve and do all the foundational things that set you up for success as you're building a startup, right? So it was all this knowledge that we were exposed to, were distilling, we were gathering, and were disseminating into the student community. And we realized that the community of students at DMU specifically at the time, and then as we were researching and learning, the student community in general is really underserved, even to this day. And this is back in 2017, right? So there's a lot of work to be done because students have so much potential. You know, some of the brightest minds are walking the halls of DMU and other universities in the Midlands and around the world. And we at IdeasLab want to convince students that it's possible. We want to convince students that entrepreneurship is an option for them. You know, they don't have to go to graduate if they don't want to. If they feel like they can build something, you know, there's a community out there of other students building things as well, as passionate as you are, who can support you on this journey. And then you have, you know, the team, you know, who we create content and things like that to support the community. And we have other big plans in the pipeline as well, just to really create this global community of student entrepreneurs who are super passionate, who want to build, who want to connect, who want to change the world. So that was kind of our why at the beginning. And then I'll pass on to Kennedy to talk about, when I introduced the idea to him, what about it really connected with him.
Yeah.
Let's join.
You'll be a very good host, Felix, because that was to be my next question to Kennedy. But before then, you said a lot of things, and I kept writing in my notes. You mentioned the DMU Global. Then when you eat on the abundance of mind, then you do not need to keep your ideas together. And it's just dawned on me that, I've been talking about networking, about partnership. But before I come to that, Kennedy, I will come to you. You went to the University of Portsmouth. How did the course you studied there helped you in your current role and even in co-founding the business?
So to your first question, how did my course help me in my current role? It led me to healthy skepticism. And I think, especially with the whole pandemic that's just happened, we are missing, not just out of the response that we've seen to the pandemic, but it's always good to have healthy skepticism. If you go back to René Descartes, who's a very famous French philosopher and mathematician, one of his hypotheses was that I think, therefore I am. But how he got there was healthy skepticism. It's like he just questioned everything. What's the color black? Is black the same to me as it is to you? How have we come to that agreement? So in economics, it's the same thing. You question the data, you question statistics. You don't just see a graph, see it going up, saying, oh, that means it's a good thing. Well, look at the variables, what's being tested there. And that's led me to my career now, where when you're building for consumers, you have to always question of why are we doing this? What value are we bringing? When I'm analyzing business processes, the question that I ask stakeholders and our clients is, oh, why have you done this process before? What are the benefits of it? What happens if we remove it? What happens if we do a certain test to it? These are questions you have to ask because you're trying to find the most streamlined approach to better their business and to give more value to their customers. And to answer the second question of how does my degree now help me with IdeasLab, economics forces you to be global minded. You can focus on the macro if you choose to. There's obviously macroeconomics that exists, but you need to have the whole picture. You can't just, again, going back to skepticism, you can't just see something that occurs, a pattern, and then go, oh, well, it's because of A, it's because of variable A, that's why this pattern occurs. There may be other reasons why that is. And for IdeasLab, going back to the mindset of a startup founder, and the philosophy that is now being leaked over from the United States across to Europe and across Africa and other continents, it's the constant iteration, as Felix mentioned. You have to build in public. If you don't build in public, you don't get feedback. And if you don't build in public, for example, it's very human, but if I asked me a couple of years ago to put my name displayed there, I would have just put my first name, because it's human for us to want to shy away from the limelight because of our ancestry. We're trying to avoid predators. We don't want to be singled out. We don't want to have any trouble. But you have to a business starts with you first, and then your reputation will vibrate across like a ripple. If a furnace on the top, it ripples out. So going back to the question of how does my role now help me, how does my studies now help me with IdeasLab, it just forces me to think open-mindedly and to constantly iterate, constantly test new things, and constantly look at the statistics and see what is changing every time, because nothing stays stagnant.
Right. Thank you so much, Kennedy and Felix and Daniel. Now, my next question is, how has partnership helped the business? So, Daniel, you studied advertising and marketing. Felix, you studied business and management. And Kennedy, you said economics. How has this partnership helped the business? Because sometimes you're thinking, some of our students, most especially from our community, they might have this business idea, but they cannot go it alone. But they're scared of talking to people. And I remember, Felix, you said, not being scared to fail is a philosophy that you came out with from the US. So how has this partnership, this 4 team, has helped the business?
Oh, Dana, do you want to take that one?
I was gonna just ask Bola to so I can answer the question properly. When you talk about partnership, we're talking within our team. Yeah.
Oh, she's frozen.
She's frozen for you. Yeah.
Well, I can hear us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're back now.
I can hear you. Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, yeah.
So
I just had a
again,
question.
Daniel.
Yeah, the question, so you're trying to understand our partnership within our team. How is that
your
sort
team.
of...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I'll kick this off, and then Felix, I'll let you jump in. I just wanted to just add that for me, you know, being around Felix, Kennedy, and Shafiq has been amazing, because I'm sure, as you've just heard them speak, these are very intelligent Black men who have inspired me to do better, even in my area in marketing. You know, Felix, Kennedy, they all have different ideas. When I first met them and we were talking about IdeasLab, they brought the idea of venture capital to me, something I'd never understood before. I mean, we've even invested in some students through the idea of angel investing. So this is something that I've never heard of. So being in this group has literally opened so many doors for me as a person individually. In terms of IdeasLab Global, we've all separated in our different areas in terms of what we want to look after. So we bring our strengths to the table. Felix looks after strategy. Kennedy looks after the community. I look after marketing with Shafiq, who looks after more of the customer experience. So we identified early on that we all have our strengths. Now it's time to push ourselves individually, and it's been working really well. And we have meetings regularly where we question each other, we push each other, just to make sure that we're actually doing our jobs and using our expertise to help IdeasLab Global grow. So our partnership has been amazing. And from an individual standpoint, I've learned so much from these guys, and I'm really sort of privileged to be around them, because you're looking at some really great minds in front of you today. So I think what in 10 years time, we'll come back to this clip, and believe me, you'll see that these guys have done some amazing things. In fact, they haven't even told you. There's so many things behind the scenes that they haven't even touched on.
Really?
I mean, if we I'm getting excited here, but let's focus on IdeasLab Global. Maybe next time we'll have individual meetings for all of us where we can just unload everything. But yeah, all right. Felix, take it away.
Daniel, you're too kind, my bro. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And you know, he mentioned something so important. It's the constant learning and challenging each other that I think brings us together, makes our foundations really strong. You know, being friends first does help, but we don't let being friends get in the way of us challenging ourselves to be better. If anything, I think our friendship actually helps that, because we genuinely care and we see where we want to be better in, and we do everything we can to support our growth. And we even do that past us as founders, you know, because we have someone else in the team called Clarice, who looks after like venture, the venture part of it, operational parts of it. And then we have student ambassadors, 2 of them who are amazing, that we're bringing on board as well. So we disseminate that even on that level as well, to make sure that we're challenging each other, and we're really working towards building a strong relationship individually and as a group as well, which is really important for us. I think one of the things that we did that was really important, and we did it quite early on, was we had a very, very in-depth conversation about values, our values individually, and then our shared values as a team. And I'm going to take no credit for coming up with that idea. That was all Kennedy. bringing that philosophical mindset, that background in economics and his love for philosophy really got us to start thinking first about our values and what intrinsically drives us, and how can we combine those to bring the best out of ourselves and out of each other as a team, and then ultimately out of IdeasLab as an entity. Because one thing we want to do with IdeasLab Global is that we want to bring in a different vibe. We're talking about building a global community here. We're talking about potentially millions of students around the world who come into contact with our culture, our vibe, and our mission. And we don't want to just look like everybody else out there. We really want to shape this in a way that really feels authentic, and that has to come from us, and we have to live and breathe that every day. Like Kennedy mentioned, it's our personal brand, right? And our personal brand obviously affects the brand of the company and the brand of the community. So I think having that early conversation about values really helps. You can't run away from that, especially if you're working with co-founders. Even if it's just one other person, you have to talk about those really deep, important things and have conversations about what drives you. You know, what does success look like to you? How would you respond to failure? You know, what do you want to achieve in your life? And those different things like that, so you know where you align, and then how you can, you know, continue to support each other even when things get a little bit tough, which they will inevitably do. Because when you have that strong connection built on values, it's really easy to think big, and it's really easy to just be open about what's happening, even if it's not the most straightforward conversation to have.
Thank you. It is interesting to hear you talk about your individual talents and aspirations, yet bringing together the ideas to form this business. And I asked that question particularly because of probably young ones in our community that would think they've got this business idea, but they cannot just go it alone. So probably they need to start looking for partners to run this together. They can talk to their friends. But Felix, you mentioned you've kept talking about having conversations around values from the onset. So that will be very important. So now let's talk about the business, IdeasLab. What is the business? And how is the business helping students today?
Sure. So I can kick off that one, guys, if that's cool. So the main part of IdeasLab Global as a business right now is we're fully focused on community. So in the spirit of transparency, we're not making any money. We don't even have a structured business model yet. That's stuff that we're thinking about, we're working on. And you know, Kenny was mentioning about building a public, you know, and I think being transparent is also a very important part of that. So I'm going to put it out there, like we don't know how we're going to make money yet, but we will. And once we crack that, it's going to be scary out here. But the community is our main focus, right? So we have a community called the IdeasLab Network. We launched that last year in 2020 in May, and the community now has over 100 student entrepreneurs from around the world. You know, from most of the major continents. I think we have more than 30 different countries represented in the community at the moment. You know, some incredible founders building in there. Daniel mentioned that we've even you know, angel invested in some of the founders in there as well. We're planning to do more as we grow. So our main focus is the community, and we encourage every student who is entrepreneurial, who has a business, or who's thinking about building a business to join our community, so you can take advantage of the network itself. You know, the synergies when you start talking to student founders from around the world. You know, what kind of conversations happens when a student from a university in Venezuela is meeting a student from a university in South Korea? You know, what ideas can you come up with? So those are the kind of interactions we want to facilitate, and we're already seeing that happen in the community. We've been seeing that happen since we started, right? Either connections that we facilitate ourselves, or connections that naturally occur from just by being in the same digital space. So within the community, the team creates really good content as well, but content that's specific to students building at university. So it's not just generic entrepreneurial content that you can find anywhere. It's content that as a student, you can read it and you can action it today, right now, because you're already in the ecosystem that we're describing, right? And then we have our events as well, which is called Welcome to the Lab. So all these services are free. Students can come in and just vibe with us, you know, get a feel for who we are, what we do, and the fact that we genuinely care. And we're not just doing this to try and make money off students or anything like that. No, not at all. We genuinely care. We want to see students win. And if you talk to any of our most engaged student founders in our community, they will happily tell you that this is very, very true. And we do everything we can, everything in our power to support the Monday growth, because we want to see them win and we want to see them change the world. Because as they win, our community gets more valuable. They then reinvest back into our community and then back into students who are coming up and want to basically be like them or even be more successful than them. So that is the business as it is currently. And then we're also playing around with some more ideas, which I will pass on to my fellow co-founders to touch on. And if they want to add anything else to the community aspect too, talk about that as well.
All right, let me ask this question. So you've been talking about the community. Are you focusing on the BIM community or all students generally?
It'll be all students in general, because we're one community, whether no matter if you belong to BAME, which is the term I don't really like to use, because it kind of just separates everyone else, or even if you're part of LGBTQ, we're all one being, we're all human at the end of the day. The goal that we're trying to deliver with IdeasLab is the fact that we're all humans, we're all trying to succeed. And as Felix touched on, we're trying to see each other win. So when we have with IdeasLab, what we start from is always how do we serve first, and how do we serve first? Because the rewards will come later. It's just the way of the world, you know. The more you give the world, you know, the more you receive. It may not come immediately, and you know that's something that I think I'm really happy, you know, not just speaking about myself, but you know, with my other team members, Daniel, Shafiq, Felix, and Clarice, you know, there's that delayed gratification, because we know that it doesn't, money comes and goes. It's just how it is. You know, you can't take your money with you to the next life. That's just how it is. So at least let us leave something bigger than ourselves. And that's why I think we have that shared hive mind, is that we know that IdeasLab is bigger than us. And whatever happens in the future, you know, we've had these conversations of, oh, what happens if we get acquired? And we're just like, we're not really sure what will happen if we get acquired. I'm not sure if I'd be able to let the reins go and let someone else take hold of it, because will they still embody those values of IdeasLab? You know, who knows? You know, that's a conversation that has to happen when that time comes. But it's for everybody. We're democratizing for, our goal is 1 million students worldwide. It's a big goal. It's ambitious. But when you break down big goals into manageable tasks, you go, okay, so in this quarter, this is what we need to do for this big goal. In the next quarter, this is what we need to do. You just break it down bit by bit, so it's more manageable. And yeah, everybody's welcome. So feel free to come and have a conversation with us.
Thank you for that. All right. So when I was reading about you guys, and I discovered that you decided to co-found the business, to start up during a global pandemic. What happened to you? Why did you do that? When all of us were thinking, no, we need to go back behind the doors. We don't want to think. We just want everything to be good around us. Why did you decide to co-found a startup during the global pandemic? And what were some of the challenges you faced in the period?
I mean, why not? Why not decide to start a startup during a global pandemic? If you are in the position to do so, if you're in the right headspace to do so, if you have the resources and, you know, arguably the privilege to do so, why not start a startup during a global pandemic? And the part of the article that we put out there that touched on this was how do I put it the right way? How much easier it is right now to start something today, whether that's a service, a product, you know, whatever it is, you can start something today. And it doesn't matter if it's during a global pandemic. It doesn't matter if it's during a recession, or if it's during a boom phase, it doesn't matter. And obviously this is very personal to me, by the way. I don't want to say this, this is my personal opinion. Just start. So we decided to just start. We'd been playing around with a few ideas and a few concepts beforehand, but the time just aligned quite nicely. And yes, even though the world was quite chaotic at the time, and arguably still is kind of chaotic right now, we decided that students still need to be served. The mission doesn't end during a global pandemic. If anything, now we have more headspace to re-strategize and to think about how we can come correct and how we can really start serving at a global scale. All of us in the team are technologists. We love tech. We love playing around with different concepts, reading about the industry and stuff like that. We found a platform that allowed us to achieve what we wanted to achieve at a global scale from wherever we were. So it didn't matter whether we're at home, overseas, wherever it was, we could start. The resources were there to start. And our investment for that was damn near zero, which is what I mean by the barriers to entry are so low now that you can really start anything that you want. The upfront cost for something like this, end of the day, we're starting with community. Upfront costs are zero. All you need to do is to have a platform where you can host people, and maybe you want to have it custom to what you want to do. That's fine. But we started with what, £100 or something or less. It was just the hosting cost of the website, really. All the stuff that we do, all the tools we use for IdeasLab. And in the article, by the way, we have a list of all the tools that we use to run the community and to run the operations, because we want to give that information out freely, because we want people to know that it's possible and you can start. You can do it today. You can do it exactly how we did it, or you can tweak it if you want to. All the tools we use are free. So the question to us was, why not start a startup during a global pandemic and just kind of see where it goes? And it's only gone from strength to strength, because knowledge transfer and democratizing access to entrepreneurship doesn't require you to be in a physical place. So we could do it from our bedrooms, we could do it from our living rooms, our kitchens, or from the beach or wherever we were, and we can start to serve that community and grow that community. And we weren't going to let a global pandemic stop us from achieving that mission.
Yeah, thank you for that, Kennedy. So,
if I could just add on to what Felix just said. So, very quickly, I'm sure students listening and people on the call will know there's two rappers, Big Sean and Rick Ross, and in their songs, they mentioned that if they woke up the next day and they had to start from square zero with nothing, they know they could get it all over. And the reason why they feel confident in that they can get it all over is because they've done the whole process before. They've iterated time and time and time again. And if you think about, the number of attempts you make rather than, I guess, the number of iterations, the difference between attempts and iterations is that, are you doing the same thing, the same way over and over again? Or are you iterating where you're trying something new every single time you put your prototype together, for example? So in iteration 1, what are you doing? What are you doing different in iteration 2? And you'll find that where attempts is just, using the pen, it's just flat, it's just linear, a straight line. Iterations actually exponentially go up, rather. So if you don't start, you're never gonna acquire the skills. That's just how it is.
That's true.
And don't pay attention. Don't feel so vain, for lack of a better word, about how your first iteration looks. Because if you spent all that time putting it together, making it look as beautiful as you want it to be, you've already too late. You missed the opportunity. All your end user needs is for it to work. It needs to do what you said it's going to do. If it's paper, like I want to write on paper, I don't really care if it's pink, blue, red. I just want paper to write on. Just give me the paper. Same thing for your end users. I just want your product. I don't care how it looks. We can work on that as it goes. So that's what I would like to add.
I like that. And I was just thinking that is a very good advice, even for our BAME community, that just start and gain the skills as you go along. So talking about that, why is it really important for us at this time to elevate BAME's representation in business sector?
I'll go on that one, guys. Why is it important?
Yeah.
I mean, just look around the world. Representation is something that has always been a problem. So when people look at business owners, multi-billionaires, a lot of the times they might not see someone that looks like them. They might see, you know, the celebrities that ring, you know, the business celebrities, they tend to be, you know, from a white background. But there's so many amazing young BAME students, entrepreneurs, CEOs out there. Even though there's a very small amount of them, they're still doing amazing things. So the representation is so important because, you know, say if I think about my 10-year-old cousins, my nieces, they all need to see someone that looks like them in order to succeed in the future. So that's why it's really, really important for us to play a role in increasing that representation. Because as you've just heard, Bola, from Kennedy and Felix, these are amazing people. I mean, I get excited when I'm listening to them. And imagine if a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old, even an 18-year-old who's in their final year of university listens and hears Felix say, actually, I'm building a global company and I started it and it was for free. That person instantly thinks, well, I can do it as well. Let me have a go. So representation is important. I think that's the reason why we should continue to push this narrative for BAME students, just so they can see someone that looks just like them. And as a result, it will spark a reaction, which will lead them to try as well.
Thank you for that. And that will now take me to the next question. How do we help our community? It's Black History Month. How do we help the community, the BAME community?
Wow. That's a big question. And I think
It is.
we're all doing our yeah.
You're in the
How do we
business
play
world already.
How do we play our part is by constantly having events like this. That's number one. That's number one. But there's so many organizations. I think partnership should be a massive thing where we all come together and work together in order to push the narrative even more. Because when I look around within the BAME community, there's so many different organizations. I mean, when I was in my second year of university, I started something called Black Education Matters. And it was, again, to help push the narrative to Black students, to tell them, actually, you can be X, you can do X. So I think we're all doing what we can. We just need to work more together, develop partnerships, and go from there. That's the best way I can see it, to be honest, because I think when I look around, we're doing so much more. We're doing a lot of work. We just need to keep pushing.
Thank you for that. Felix, do you have any suggestions for that?
I think so. The question is, how do we help the BAME community? That's the question, right?
Yeah.
I think one way is simply just investing in the BAME community, like genuinely, truly investing in the BAME community. And that could be, you know, investing in BAME founders, for example. You know, I'm not just having 50 billion different panels as to why it's important to invest in BAME founders, but genuinely investing and actually putting money where your mouth is and investing in BAME founders. It could be, you know, kind of similar to the work I'm doing in supply chain diversity, bridging the gap, right? Bringing in, you know, let me phrase that. Using services and products created by BAME entrepreneurs. You know, I'm not trying to get things for free or at a discounted rate because they're BAME. Like, pay them, like give them what they're worth. If the thing is £50, give them £50. You know, like money. We're living in a capitalist society, right? And money runs this. Sure. You know, so pay people what they're worth. Invest in people. Put the money into their operations. Put the money into these businesses, into these entrepreneurs, and just watch them flourish. Because I think money is one of the biggest things that is holding a lot of us back. The lack of money really leans towards a lot of BAME entrepreneurs and builders towards having more of a scarcity mindset of feeling that there's not enough out there. So my limits and impact is capped, right? I'm of the mindset of we have no idea what we're capable of doing. We're capable of so much more than we're doing already. Whatever we're doing now, we can 10x that, 20x that. We just need the right investments, we need the right opportunities, and we need the right exposure. And we need visibility. We need to actually see that it's possible, right? So Daniel touched on representation, you touched on representation, Bola, as well. You know, that's really, really important. But you can represent all you want, you know, but we need to, you know, be putting money where mouth is for the BIM community, and just put the prejudice to the side and just watch us work and just see what we can come up with, because we are an incredible community, absolutely incredible. If we just had the chance or the opportunity to flourish and to show the world what we're capable of doing, yeah, it's going to be an exciting world out here. So I think that's really important to just invest.
That's true. All right. So Kennedy, my question to you then, or just to the three of you, because this will be my last question because of our time. Do you have any tips or advice for aspiring student entrepreneurs? Any business student that wants to go into entrepreneurship, do you have any tips or advice for that?
Oh, entrepreneurship. I would say it kind of touches on the last question of that you asked Felix and Daniel. I would say start with yourself, start with the individual first. I live by two simple philosophies, and that's, you know, how can I better myself, and how does bettering myself better my community. So why I keep those two very close to me is because, you know, I don't have to be able to run a marathon tomorrow by training today. It's gradual, right? And that's the same thing with entrepreneurship. It's a journey. It's gradual. You're gradually going to get there. And you may never feel like you're an entrepreneur, and you may even say it to other people, but I think that's a good thing, because it keeps you grounded. It keeps you humbled. And you know, you should always live to be humbled. When you feel like you've got it, it's when it's as soon as you've lost it. So for anyone that wants to be an entrepreneur, I would say start, you know, learn, and as you learn, apply. So it's very, you know, one last thing I want to say is it's very easy, because I did this, you know, I'm very big on personal development, but it's very easy to fall into the procrastination trap of, oh, I just need to read one more book on marketing and I'll know how to market. No, read one chapter, put it straight to use, you know. Oh, I really want to increase my flexibility and be able to just sit. What should I read? No, look at some quick videos on YouTube, get started, put in that work and start iterating straight away. Because as we said before, the more you delay, you know, it's the longer, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow, you know. And think about the community first. Don't think, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to be rich. People only become rich as entrepreneurs because they've given value to the community. It's as simple as that. You know, it's the same thing, you know, scammers and this, that, and the other. They're the dark entrepreneurs because they think about themselves, and they eventually get caught, and then the community punishes them for their acts against the community. But when you're somebody that's a social entrepreneur, that's someone that really wants to help and build not just the Black community, the Asian community, or the LGBTQ community, but humanity as a whole, with the area of influence that you have, you'll be rewarded. So that's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other suggestion from Felix and Daniel?
Yeah, I would say, I know we're running out of time. I would just say, you know, get used to failing. Just get used to failing. Get used to failing. There's nothing wrong with failing.
Yeah.
And I'll add as well, just join the community. Join our community. In fact, I have just dropped a link to our community in the chat.
Okay.
So you can join it right now. and we're not just saying it to be cheeky and to give ourselves visibility. No, it either, if it's not our community, it's another community of founders, entrepreneurs, potential entrepreneurs. Yep. It really, really does help. And one thing communities do is that they facilitate collaboration. Entrepreneurship is not a siloed experience at all. Even when you look at big companies, Google, Facebook, all the big tech companies out there, they work together all the time, So we have to get used to more open collaboration, because together, working in collaboration is how we can really, move markets, how we can shift tech forward, how we can shift marketing. Anything you want to do, there's somebody out there who's willing to help you and support you, and just to encourage you and work with you to be more successful. So join a community like ours in the chat and collaborate as well. It's really important.
Thank you, Felix, Daniel, and Kennedy. So we've been told, collaborate with others, put knowledge into practice, and do not be scared to fail. Our aspiring students and entrepreneurs, these are good advice you can take on for your own businesses. We hope to bring probably the Directorate of Social and Impact, DMU, will bring this back to us. Directorate of Social Impact and Engagement at DMU. We hope to have more of this conversation. This is really good. Thank you for this platform, and thank you, Felix. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Kennedy. And I hope you extend our greetings to Shafiq as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.